Federal judge has temporarily blocked DOJ's access to data from the Office of Personnel Management. In her ruling, New York Judge Denise Coates said that the plaintiffs, led by the American Federation of Government Employees, proved the DOJ disclosed records, quote, to individuals who had no legal right of access to those records. In doing so, the defendants violated the Privacy Act and departed from cybersecurity standards that they are obligated to follow. This was a breach of law and of trust. Joining us now, Democratic Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury of New Mexico. She is a member of the Oversight Committee and the DOJ Subcommittee.
So just very quickly off the top, what's your reaction to this decision by the court?
Well, I'll just say the courts are doing their jobs right now, and thank God for the courts, because obviously we've never seen such lawlessness, at least in my lifetime. I think it's very obvious. And when I'm traveling in my district, it's the number one thing that everybody brings up to me, regardless of their ideological background or political affiliation. People are freaked out that these people are stealing their data. And I think many of us were very shocked about the Friday decision by the Supreme Court in the Social Security case. So I'm glad to hear that this district court judge ruled in this case on behalf of the American people. But the reality is that this dude stole our data, and we don't know what he's doing with it, but clearly it's illegal.
This man stole the data. We don't know what he's doing with it. We do know that there were servers that were installed on the White House grounds early on, though that give us 5 things you did this week email was originating from DOJ individuals. And now we've learned that Musk's DOJ team ignored White House experts warning that Starlink is a security risk. Sources told the Washington Post that those managing the systems weren't able to monitor such connections to stop sensitive information from leaving the complex or hackers breaking in. This is notable because Starlink has been installed on the White House campus. They said it was to boost some of the dead areas in the White House. I mean, you've been to the White House. I've worked in the White House. It's my recollection that many of the dead areas, the dead spots where you don't get good cell service,
are created by security.
They're adjacent to many of the SCIFs that are on the White House complex. But maybe it's just me.
I mean, like, one of the things you have to understand, you've worked in the White House. I used to work at the Office of Management and Budget, and there are still legacy systems inside the White House. There is still hard wire from the Pentagon to the White House, and there's a reason why that hard wire is there. It's so that nobody can intercept it, right? And so the idea that we would be transmitting sensitive, highly secured American data, dealing with national security over satellite transmissions is a national security risk, and also that's all privately controlled by his technology. So what's to say that even Musk himself is not downloading that data, more or less the opportunity for our foreign adversaries to intercept it?
So when we talk about data, I think that can feel really abstract. So let's take a look at some of what we're talking about when we talk about data that could be accessed through the Social Security Administration. Talking about driver's licenses, bank and credit cards, birth and marriage certificates, pension information, home and work addresses, school records, immigration and naturalization records, family court records. You can see it all there. I mean, talk to me about the ways that could potentially be weaponized against the American people.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that people are most freaked out about right now is the reports that are coming out of the White House that they've been contracting with private AI companies like Palantir, which is reportedly building a master database or integration system to take American data from all of these different systems. And when you couple that with language that was in the big abomination of the bill that basically would tell states and local governments, you can't stop a private company from downloading data for AI systems, we're talking about not only the largest data breach ever in American history, we're talking about the potential private AI companies to access your private and personal data off government systems, and potentially, if this reconciliation language passes, like data that private companies have even in states and local governments or private businesses that secure that data. We don't know how that could be used. We know that Palantir, for example, develops biometric tracking systems that's used by the military. All of these things pose significant concerns and risks, especially given what we're seeing today on the ground in LA.
It's the data. It's the data. It's the data.
It's always the data.
Yeah.
Can I say people think that the government already warehouses their data, though, and they don't.
Yeah,
there's
they do.
not one place that the government has everyone's data.
A lot of that comes out of conspiracy conversation from going back to Nixon, right? And all of that. And we understand that. But I think at this point, it's real. It's much more real. Why? Because we're the physical manifestation of it in Doge. I thought it was a little bit ironic and a whole hell of a lot funny that the Wall Street Journal is reporting that the Doge staffers feared getting fired or getting doged, noting Doge workers embedded throughout the federal bureaucracy still fear a blowback. Text groups lit up as the clash escalated last Thursday. That was the whole bro breakup between Trump and Musk, with some Doge affiliate staff texting one another about whether they would be fired. Nothing sweeter could happen than they're being fired. But that tells you a lot about how cynical and there's a word I want that I probably can't use, so I'm not going to use it. Messed up this is. That they understand enough to know when the tables turn and they could be fired, given what they've done over the last 5 months to federal workers across the system.
Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious. Look, I mean, last week I took to the House floor and I read the tweet breakup into the congressional record, and it was fun, it was funny, but the main point was we wanted it to be on record. And since then, Elon Musk has already started deleting tweets that he was tweeting during his breakup. And the reality is that we know they've been breaking the law. There's over 200 court cases against them, but there's things that we don't know, like what did Elon Musk actually do to support Donald Trump's election besides donating $300 million? Was there a use of data to be able to do that, right?
Baby. Peel it back.
So, I mean, we don't know what these Dogers are doing inside the government, and we don't know how Donald Trump got there. And so I think we're all eager for the law and the courts to reveal what actually has been going on.
Before we let you go, I want to make sure that we do talk about the images that we're watching on our screen. And one of the ways I think it ties the conversation that we're having about Elon Musk and Donald Trump is not acting in isolation. And I think as it relates to the use of National Guards, it's interesting to think about the role of Pete Hegseth and what we learned during Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearings, specifically that he has promoted that he railed against military lawyers who promoted what he saw as unduly restrictive rules of engagement aimed at protecting civilians in war zones, fired the top judge advocate general lawyers who give advice on legal constraints. What concerns do you have with a Secretary of Defense with that POV who is now acting at the behest of a president who believes he has statutory authority he does not have?
Well, what concerns don't I have about Pete Hegseth? I mean, this is the most unqualified DOD secretary this country's ever seen, period, hands down. And, my partner is a Marine veteran. And so to see the deployment of Marines from Camp Pendleton, I find it to be a gross and disgusting abuse of power. There is no legal basis for it. It is an abuse of presidential power. And to deploy troops that are preparing for national security missions to be deployed against American citizens is disgusting.